Happy Monday, kicking off the week here today with day 1397. It's been a pretty poor day so far. I got up this morning and actually the sun was out, so I was really tired. A couple minutes late getting out of bed, but I made it down here and decided to take the M5 into Kent this morning. So everything went well until I got to the part of town where it's kind of stop and go, more traffic, stop signs, lights. And I was looking at the car in front of me at a light, just burning time, and I started to smell something bad, something burning. I looked up and there's a little bit of white smoke in the air, and then I looked down inside the car and there's tons of white smoke coming out from the center vent. I'm like, oh shit, that's not good. So first thing I do after I see white smoke coming on the inside of the car is I dart over to the temperature gauges. Coolant, it's 11:30, 11:45, not even halfway, so it's not an overheating issue. Looked at the oil. It's like between a third and halfway there, so that isn't the oil being hot. Those are normal operating temperatures for a 55-degree day. Turned the engine off, turned it back on, rolled the windows down, killed the radio, turned off the climate control, so no more smoke coming in the car, it's coming out from under the hood. Everything sounds fine. Give it a little rev to 1500 RPM, sounds fine. Drive to the nearest parking lot, shut it off, open the hood. Intro time. Have you ever seen? When I opened the hood, I found a mess. Yeah, this is not a good morning. Open the hood. Everything here is covered in oil. All over the strut tower. I think this is the ABS module, this expansion tank, this little door, valve cover. So my first thought is, oh god damn it, we blew the valve cover. Great. I have a little drip that drips from there. If it's really cold outside, it probably should be replaced. They were done, 6 years ago. So I figured that was the issue. So I drove it in, tons of smoke coming out. You got oil running down on the header, so it's burning that. One of my biggest fears was a catastrophic failure, like valve through block kind of failure, thrown rod kind of failure, but plenty of power was there, it sounded fine, no check engine lights. So the engine was functioning totally normally. Got into Kent, parked, paid my parking, I had 12 minutes till class started. I got out and I started poking around. Saturday, when Luke was here, I was checking all my fluids, just dicking around. And I pulled the cap off here and I checked in there. I think I may have topped off oil a little bit. And when I put it back on, you see these two little things right there at 9 and 3 o'clock? They both have to fit in that, and then it turns a quarter turn or 3/4 of a turn, or half turn or whatever. And I only seated one of those, kind of like that. So my oil cap was not installed correctly. As the oil got hotter, I shift this thing at 2000 RPM when it's cold. As it gets hotter, I shift 3,000 to 4,000 RPM. And I guess that was enough to blow oil all over all of this. So I seated the cap correctly. I had a couple shop towels in the trunk that I keep for little cleanups or cleaning the exhaust out or whatever. Cleaned this up a bit, drove it home. Yeah, there's still some oil down there, so it burned a little bit. But what a friggin' mess. Totally my fault. Captain Dumbass doesn't know how to put his oil filler cap on. The engine's fine, now just a little bit dirty. So tonight, when I have some free time, I'm gonna have to pull the air box here, the lower box, probably take this tank out, degrease everything, dress it a little bit, clean it up, and then it'll be fine. Burned about 1 liter of oil, or it spilled about 1 liter of oil, so I topped that off, level's now good. Just a stupid, messy mistake on my part. I feel like a complete moron. So that was the beginning of the day. Did my 2 classes, boring as hell, and came home. So now it's supposed to rain in about an hour. Grandfather called the carpet that we ordered for the kitchen 4 weeks ago. They said it was gonna take 2 weeks, so they're 2 weeks late, but it's done today. So I gotta be at Callahan's at 3:15. I gotta go to the bank first. So we're taking this. I'll probably end up spending most of the rest of the day over there because I've got to fit a 9-foot carpet in this car somehow. So good thing I've got split folds, and if I have to bring the front seat all the way back and then run it up to the dash, I can do that. Get that to Silver Lake, then we've got to take that up, move all the furniture, clean the floor underneath, and put that down. So that'll be the day. Then I've got a bunch of math problems due tonight. I've got everything, just tons of shit that's got to get done today. That'll be done tonight, and then I'll relax and have tomorrow as an off day to either degrease or mow. I'm not going to get any mowing done today, but that's the story with this. Just my fault. So talking further about the oil cap, the E39 M5 oil cap has kind of been a weak point. The sealing gasket in there doesn't really fit as tightly, even when installed correctly, as it should. And periodically, depending on the age of your actual cap that has the gasket in it, you'll get a little trickle that runs down the valve cover, and usually it's not a big deal. I started to notice in the spring, after a couple weeks of driving, I would have a little trickle. So for like $14, I just bought a new cap, the OEM E39 M5 cap, and put that on there. And I mean, if I drive it 6 months without at all touching the engine, yeah, I'll probably see a tiny little trickle. Other than that, it really doesn't seep anymore. A lot of people, Luke included, find that if you buy an E46 M3 filler cap, it has a better sealing gasket and it does fit the S62 block. So you put that on there and it doesn't leak anymore. And I would gladly do that, although I'm very picky. And the E46 M3 cap is rounded. It looks more modern. It may even be the same cap as the E60 M5 S85 engine oil filler cap. And it's not symmetrical. The S62 is such a beautifully symmetrical engine. And the opposite, the oil filler cap, is the positive battery terminal, the little square plastic door that covers that. So I like that the oil cap is also square. Is that retarded that I care about that? Maybe some of you can like in with me on that, but if it ever becomes an issue, I may just put that M3 cap on there, but as I said, that isn't the issue, it's my fault. Actually, pretty good timing. The rain has just started to spit a little bit, if you can see it there in the window. It's 2:47, so, yep. What would you do with that split folding seat? Just enough room to get to the gear shifter too, it's perfect. The M5 could have done this, but not in rain, and that's what this car is for. Doing stuff the M5 doesn't need to do. I've exhausted most of my shop towels. I've now moved on to cheap Walmart paper towels. Probably about an hour in, got the carpeting and stuff taken care of with the grandparents, got dinner, and came home. I did an hour and 45 minutes worth of math, and now we're cleaning. Isn't perfect, but that's pretty good. I even got that shock cylinder. I can't get down to that motor mount. That motor mount's still nice and grizzly, but all of this came up pretty well. Vanos cover, just cleaned all of this by hand. Air filter, bottom box, top box, and that reservoir right there. That's all nice and clean now. So, ready to put all this back together. It's an 8 or 9 out of 10, and that's as good as it needs to be this time of year. Alright, I've started to clean up tools. This now looks excellent. I've cleaned parts of this engine I've never seen before now. Pretty much, like way down there is now pretty well degreased. Everything I can reasonably reach. I could lay under the car and start taking down shields and get it cleaner, but I'm not worried about that now. Didn't even bother hitting the plenum. There's a couple oil spots on that I'll get now. But I would say we're better off now, up here anyways, now than 24 hours ago. Underneath is another story. There's a lot of it in the belly pan, and it's going to continue to drip for a while. So yeah, we'll just deal with that as it comes. I'm not going to tear all that down and clean it. There's no point. So, all right, that's better. Just finished the first episode of Dexter Season 3. Seems to have slowed down a little bit. I'm going to take that in a new direction, so probably take a couple episodes to get back in it to its full extent. It's 1:47. My dad called a few minutes into that, talked to him for almost an hour. Got the car done today, worked with grandparents today, classwork today, lots of stuff. Ordered a few brochures, booklets that are dated around the production date of an M5. It's really cool to look at that stuff when it was new, what they were advertising and the pictures and stuff. So my battery light's flashing, so we'll go through these in greater depth tomorrow. But that's an O2 booklet of the BMW M5. Here's an O2 booklet of the 46 M3. And then this is the year 2000 full brochure of the M5, which is pretty interesting. Also talking about the new M3 and the M Coupe. It's mostly M5 though. And to see what this looked like new. Look at that. It's a 2000 Avis. It's beautiful. And they've got all the color codes and stuff all the way at the end. So we'll go through that tomorrow. That was pretty cool. That's the Z3 and this is the M5. And there's Silverstone. So I'm going to wrap this up, go get a shower, get to bed. Tomorrow's my off day. Probably full of yard housework. It won't be a day off, but a day not having to go into Kent. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night.